Since 1789, 47 people have taken the oath of office as President of the United States. Across more than 2 centuries, they have guided a nation that grew from roughly 4 million people to more than 330 million, expanding from a fragile republic on the Atlantic coast into 50 states connected to a global network of alliances. Some presidents led through total war, economic collapse, and constitutional crisis. Others struggled, leaving behind failures, scandals, or missed opportunities that historians still debate today. The presidency of the United States remains one of the most consequential offices in world politics. Because of America's economic power, its military alliances, and its role in international institutions, decisions made in the Oval Office rarely stay within U.S. borders. They influence global markets, security arrangements, climate policy, technology standards, and humanitarian responses across continents. Since the mid-20th century, American presidents have also stood, willingly or unwillingly, at the center of global conversations about democracy and human rights. Through diplomacy, sanctions, aid, and public statements, U.S. presidents have sometimes supported democratic movements and spoken against repression. At other times, they have been criticized for inconsistency or for prioritizing strategic interests over those ideals. This mix of power and scrutiny makes the office uniquely visible. The U.S. president is also a key actor in moments of global crisis. Financial shocks, pandemics, wars, and natural disasters often require rapid coordination among nations. American military capacity, humanitarian resources, and convening power can, in those moments, play a decisive role. For many smaller or vulnerable states, U.S. security guarantees and development assistance remain important elements of stability. Ultimately, the choices made in Washington ripple outward, shaping alliances, influencing energy and trade flows, and signaling how the international system responds to aggression or abuses of power. Whether praised or criticized, the office continues to be a focal point where ideas about democracy, fairness, and the protection of the vulnerable are tested in practice. In this video, we look at 10 U.S. presidents most often ranked near the bottom by large surveys of historians and political scientists, including the C-SPAN and Siena College rankings. These rankings assess crisis leadership, moral authority, economic management, and long-term impact. The focus here is not party loyalty. It is how effectively each president used extraordinary power at pivotal moments in American history. Number 10, Donald J. Trump. At number 10 is Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. One of the few presidents in American history to serve non-consecutive terms. His first term, from 2017 to 2021, included major tax legislation, 3 appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court, and sharply contested policies on immigration, trade, and environmental regulation. His administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, nationwide protests over race and policing, and 2 impeachments contributed to intense national polarization. The period culminated in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, which became central to debates about democratic norms and institutions. Returning to office in 2025, Trump again moved to the center of national and global debate. His second term opened with an assertive trade agenda, including broad reciprocal tariffs and higher duties on steel and aluminum, leading to renewed tensions with allies and rivals. Immigration policy returned to the forefront, with new executive actions expanding enforcement and revising humanitarian programs. In foreign policy, Trump adopted a hard bargaining approach to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, combining sanctions pressure with calls for negotiations and greater burden sharing by allies. His administration also faced scrutiny over politically sensitive investigations and questions about transparency in presidential power. In early 2026, a U.S. operation in Venezuela resulted in the capture of President Nicolas Maduro, a move that provoked global debate over international law, sovereignty, and the reach of American power. Supporters framed it as a law enforcement action. Critics saw a violation of national sovereignty. The long-term consequences are still unfolding. Because of the breadth of controversy across both terms, Trump remains one of the most polarizing modern presidents. While early rankings often placed him near the bottom, historians caution that his final standing will depend on how long-term outcomes are judged over time. Number 9. William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison served just 31 days in 1841, the shortest presidency in U.S. history and the first time a sitting president died in office. Elected in a high-turnout campaign that gave him 234 of 294 electoral votes, he arrived in Washington at age 68, but died of illness after delivering the longest inauguration address on record, leaving almost no time to shape policy at a moment of rising sectional tension. Number 8. Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor, a hero of the Mexican-American War, served from 1849 until his death in 1850, another presidency cut short. A slave-owning Southern general with little political experience, he opposed expanding slavery into new territories like California and New Mexico, angering Southern leaders and failing to calm the widening dispute that would soon dominate national politics. Number 7. Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover served from 1929 to 1933, just as the stock market crash helped trigger the Great Depression. During his term, unemployment soared to nearly 25%, and more than 12 million Americans were out of work. And although he backed public works projects and emergency committees, historians often judge his cautious approach as too limited for the scale of economic collapse. Number 6. John Tyler. John Tyler became president in 1841 after Harrison's death, the first vice president to succeed to the office on a president's passing. He vetoed much of his own Whig Party's economic program, was expelled from the party while in office, and pushed a controversial drive for Texas annexation that deepened sectional disputes and left him politically isolated by 1845. Number 5. Millard Fillmore. Millard Fillmore, president from 1850 to 1853, signed the Compromise of 1850, including the tough new Fugitive Slave Act. The law required federal officials across the free states to help capture alleged runaway slaves and denied the accused a jury trial, enraging Northern opinion and convincing many abolitionists that compromise with slavery was no longer morally acceptable. Number 4. Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding served from 1921 until his death in 1923, winning office on a promise of a return to normalcy after World War I. Popular at the time, his reputation collapsed when the Teapot Dome scandal and other revelations showed that Interior Secretary Albert Fall had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to lease federal oil reserves, making Harding's administration a symbol of 1920s political corruption. Number 3. Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce, in office from 1853 to 1857, signed the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which opened new Western territories to a vote on slavery. The law helped spark Bleeding Kansas, a mini-civil war that left around 200 people dead and millions of dollars in property destroyed, and Pierce's inability to control the crisis cost him the support of his own party. Number 2. Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson became president in 1865 after Abraham Lincoln's assassination and presided over the first phase of Reconstruction. He vetoed civil rights and Reconstruction bills, opposed protections for formerly enslaved people, and in 1868 was impeached by the House. In a Senate trial that ended 35-19, he escaped removal from office by just one vote. Number 1, James Buchanan. James Buchanan, president from 1857 to 1861, watched as the nation fractured over slavery and secession. When 7 Southern states left the Union after Lincoln's election, Buchanan insisted the federal government had no power to stop them, and many historians argue that this inaction in the face of crisis helped clear the path directly into the American Civil War. Also often ranked low, Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, president from 1969 to 1974, achieved major diplomatic successes, especially opening relations with China and signing arms control agreements. But the Watergate scandal and subsequent cover-up led to his resignation to avoid almost certain impeachment. The episode left a deep legacy of public distrust in government and makes Nixon's historical standing one of the most complex. Those were our list. However, presidential rankings are never final. New evidence, changing priorities, and the passage of time continually reshape judgment. But one lesson is constant. In moments of crisis, the quality of leadership can shape not only a presidency, but the direction of an entire nation. Thanks for watching The Credible Ranking.